Welcome into Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr. Let's talk some NBA draft prospects, specifically Davion Mitchell out of Baylor. Looks as though he's going to be working out for the Warriors leading up to the 2021 NBA draft. This report coming from Jason Dumas out of San Francisco. He tweeted this saying, Davion Mitchell, a popular pick for Golden State in many mock drafts, will be in San Francisco on the 14th and work out for Golden State on the 15th. He's in play at 7. I actually agree with that. In our first post-lottery mock draft, I mocked Davion Mitchell to the Warriors at number 7. Some Warriors fans were chirping in the comment section saying, I don't think Davion fits on Golden State. We have Steph Curry. I actually like the fit, and I'll explain that here coming up. So according to some reports, as well as this one from Jason Dumas, Mitchell's going to be in town. He's going to work out for the Warriors. The Warriors just doing their due diligence to see if maybe he is indeed in play at number 7. Former Auburn transfer who really broke out with Baylor last year. He reminds a lot of people of Davion Mitchell. They have the same last name. They are not related. They wore the same number, 45. But the reason why I compare Mitchell to Davion Mitchell is because he has that shiftiness to his game. He can kind of maneuver all around the court and get to certain spots, hit some step-back threes, some side steps, and get to the cup as well. And he is an absolute dog defensively, which is my favorite skill about him. You take a look at his numbers last year, and during the regular season, these numbers were solid. Not great by any means. 14 points per game, 5.5 assists. He shot an efficient 51% from the floor, almost 45% from distance, and I really like that. His numbers in the NCAA tournament also very good, and I think that's where he really solidified himself as a sleeper who then turned into a potential top 10 pick, and I think Mitchell is going to go top 10 in the draft, which is actually coming up in 2 Thursdays. We'll have you covered here on Chat Sports Live, so be tuned in for that coverage. Some Warriors, though, according to some reports, some people in the front office don't necessarily like Mitchell at number 7. He's a little bit older, okay? He's somewhat of a late bloomer. They're worried about his fit. I'm throwing that out the window. I think Mitchell fills some needs on this roster, which again we'll get to here in just a bit, but I also like his skills translating to the NBA level. Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report did a little bit of a scouting report on Mitchell. Here's what he had to say. I know that there are reports that the Warriors like Davion, but from people I know, not everybody likes him there. Not everybody thinks of him as a top 10 pick. Now, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't take him at 7, but I haven't put him to the Warriors at all in my mocks. I could be wrong, but I know for a fact that not everybody in the organization thinks that he's a good pick at number 7. For those who don't think he's a good pick at number 7, I disagree. Warriors need a playmaker outside of Steph Curry. I like Jordan Poole coming off the bench, but if you can have Davion Mitchell as more of a creator and scoring type, a guy who can lock down opposing guards, I think he figures in nicely to that Warriors lineup, especially coming off the bench as a secondary playmaker. His defensive ability reminds me a lot of guys like Patrick Beverley, as well as Kyle Lowry. He's not scared at all to get all up in your mug, and I love that quality about him. Has absolutely no fear. He's a junkyard dog. And the Warriors have to, at some point, start compiling young talent. Steph Curry's 33 years old. And while he's playing like an MVP, he's not going to be here forever. Why not get another guard who can take over at some point for him if either his career comes to an end or his production slips off? Klay Thompson coming off the ACL and Achilles injuries. Draymond Green, not the player that he once was, although still a very good defender. So the Warriors as a franchise need to start compiling young talent, and I think Mitchell is a good guy to do that with. Dubs, chime in, homies. Should the Warriors draft Mitchell with the number 7 overall pick? Get your votes in the comment section before we move on in today's show. Type D for draft, type P for pass. Get those votes in down below. Coming your way, we're going to take a look at some Ben Simmons trade destinations, but first, let's get to the latest on the Philadelphia 76ers guard/forward, because at this point, we don't know what the hell position he plays. According to Shams of The Athletic, the Sixers have opened up conversations, and they are fielding trade calls for the former number 1 overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft. According to sources, the Sixers want back an all-star caliber player for their all-star, a guy who is a first-team all-caliber defender and was a first-team all basketball defender this past year. And I understand that because of that awful second round series against the Atlanta Hawks, where Ben Simmons took a total of 4 shots in the fourth quarter of 7 games, that his value is at an all-time low. We were talking about him being included in deals for guys like James Harden and Devin Booker. His value is not that, but I don't think it's in the basement, flushed down the toilet like some people believe right now. And his interest, according to some league executives, does remain robust because he brings a lot of value to his respective team. Here's what Shams had to say on The Athletic in that recent report. After a disappointing defeat in the second round of the playoffs to Atlanta, the 76ers and president of basketball operations Daryl Morey have been surveying the landscape for ways to improve their roster. Philadelphia lost to the Hawks in 7 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals, culminating in coach Doc Rivers and MVP runner-up Joel Embiid singling out Ben Simmons' play. That's what Shams had to say about Simmons. Here's what Mark Stein had to say about some interested teams who have been making calls to Daryl Morey and the Sixers. The Cleveland Cavaliers interested in Ben Simmons. So too are the Indiana Pacers. Would they give up Malcolm Brogdon for Ben Simmons? Something to monitor. The Minnesota Timberwolves, for a while, there have been rumblings there that they are invested in Simmons as well. The Toronto Raptors, could it be a sign and trade where they send Kyle Lowry to Philly, whose hometown, where he played college ball at Villanova, and get back Ben Simmons? Maybe that could happen. And then rounding out that 5-team list of teams interested in Simmons, the Sacramento Kings. Ben Simmons is certainly a confusing player. We're not sure if he's a point guard, if he's a power forward, if he's a point forward, maybe he is a small ball center. There's certainly some good and bad with him. He's a multi-time All-Star. He can guard positions 1 through 5, and there's a lot of good about his game. First team all defense. He can realistically guard point guards, shooting guards, wings, power forwards, and centers. He can guard all 5 positions on the floor, and I thought it was a joke that Rudy Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year ahead of a guy like Ben Simmons because I think his defensive prowess more valuable to his team than Gobert, who just clogs the paint. Simmons is also a tremendous athlete. 6'11", 240 pounds, and to move like he does, it really does in the open floor give you flashes of Magic Johnson with that passing ability. The court vision is truly elite, and if you want to talk about elite qualities that Simmons possesses, it's defense and it's passing. And while he doesn't shoot the ball from the outside, hasn't even developed an elbow or baseline jumper, what he does do is create shots for his teammates. A lot of his assists led to 3-pointers last year, which was a big reason why the Sixers were that number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Him in the open floor, it's beautiful to watch. It's marvelous to see a guy at that size, at that speed, make the plays that he does on the open floor. But this is why Ben Simmons is so frustrating. Since coming into the league in 2016, he hasn't developed his offensive game at all, and this is where the bad comes in. In fact, go back and watch what he did in the NBA Summer League. He was taking 3-pointers. He was hitting dribble pull-ups. He was hitting elbow jumpers as well as jumpers from the baseline. He doesn't even attempt those shots anymore. So really, his offensive game has regressed. He can't shoot, and he won't shoot. And in the fourth quarter of 7 games in that series against the Atlanta Hawks, he took a total of 4 shots in the fourth quarter in 7 games. You can't win playoff series with this guy as your point guard when he is contributing nothing on the offensive end of the floor. And speaking of contributing nothing, zilch, nada, his free throw percentage was god-awful. 34% from the charity stripe from your point guard. That is disastrous. When we look at potential destinations for Ben Simmons, how about the Golden State Warriors? Colin Cowherd said this on his radio show on FS1. He thinks Golden State might be the best fit for Simmons. He was talking with Chris Broussard, and he said this: if you gave me the number 7 pick and Andrew Wiggins from the Warriors, you would get another shooter if you're Philly. It's a very strong draft. At the number 7 pick, you're probably getting a starter or a first guy off the bench. So let's look further at what the Warriors could offer the Sixers for Simmons. They certainly have assets. The aforementioned number 7 and 14 picks. You can also put James Wiseman in that deal if you want to. Although, if you include Andrew Wiggins as a salary match in that trade, I don't think you have to part ways with James Wiseman, and I like that for Golden State because I think as he develops, he could be a very solid player. And for the Warriors, you might be saying, well, he's a very similar player to Draymond Green. This fit makes more sense to me because I actually think you can start Ben Simmons at the 5, you can have him in the dunker spot, and with his passing ability, can you imagine him in that offense finding a streaking Steph, a floating around the perimeter Klay Thompson? That Warriors offense could be extremely dangerous with Ben Simmons playing the point forward without Draymond, but also a pass-happy center down low. Then you don't have to worry about him not shooting the rock at all. Warriors would be dangerous. What do you think, though? Does Simmons fit on the Golden State Warriors? Get your votes in the comment section. Type F for yes, I think he fits. Type W if you think it's a weird fit. Submit those votes down below. At first, I would have typed my W because I thought it was a really weird fit. I do think, though, if the Warriors played Simmons at the 5, it would fit, and it would make the Warriors very, very dangerous.